Hello everybody, my name is Tris and this is Double O'Neill, and this channel is about model railways, as you might have figured out by the thumbnail and all the little bits and bobs. You might be a returning person from watching the videos before and you want to see what we're up to. If you've seen my previous progress, you would have seen that we've been working on the scenics and building up certain areas of one side of the layout, and I've been having a lot of fun with this. A number of episodes we put the back scene up, which was actually very cool because it suddenly gives you much more of a layout, which is really great. And then we're working out what's going on with the tracks. I've got two lines coming through on the layout, which is really cool because you can have your up and down line and the trains go past. So I really like that. And behind all that I've got my fiddle yard, which at the moment I'm not sure if I like it or not. Was it a good decision? Who knows? We'll see with time. So what I wanted to do was focus on one part of this side, which is the embankment areas, which lead up to then some little hilly bits, which then hopefully blend the back scene with those hilly bits. And once I get some trees and things on there, we'll see how that looks. So that was kind of my thoughts anyway for that, and then we might put some line side fencing on and just make it look more and more realistic as we go along. Not very experienced at this, so I've done some of my static grass work on the other side of the layout and my mountain railway, but from that point I've not done much more, and these are vaster areas that I'm doing with the grass. So this episode's about doing the scenic stage of it, as well as putting some ballast on the track. So I'll go through my process of putting the ballast on, which I think lots of people have done videos about this, so stick around, have a little watch about how I get up to it. I also have some fun using an airbrush, which would be good, which I've done little bits with so far, and I think I'm getting better at it. I'm not having it clog up on me anymore. The biggest thing I noticed with an airbrush, got one here, when you push down and then you pull back. Before, what I was doing was I was kind of letting go. Obviously this one's a bit jammed, it's not a very good airbrush. But anyway, I was flicking it back, and from what I understand is when you pull that back, you've got full paint flow, I can get that right, and basically when you let go and it snaps back there, you have a bit of splotchy bit that hangs around, and that's one of the bits that can dry up and create some spatter as well when you go back on. So from everything I've been learning is you pull back with it obviously pushed down. So you push down, pull back, then we return back to neutral, then let go, and so that clears the airbrush out of the paint, because you've come down with the paint exiting whilst pushing the button down, which lets all the air out. So that's been a big improvement for me. Airbrush basics, I'm very much sure, and something I didn't really know. So watching videos on YouTube, you soon learn these things. Anyway, so what we do is we'll go and have a look at what I did. I've kind of broken this up into sections, so it's not too much in one go, because I did quite a lot, and it was a lot of fun. So let's go have a look at the part one of this bit, and we'll have a look at the ballasting and painting of the track stage. And here is the airbrush about to be in action, and we're going to put some sleeper grime in there. I kind of tweaked my methods as I went on, but obviously adding some sleeper grime to what I'd already put in there was some airbrush thinner, and I found that from what people say when you see people talk about it, is that milky consistency. So adding that thinner in until it's kind of, let's call it semi-skinned kind of consistency as you go there. And what I found was when a little bit thinner again, you end up having it coming out easy. I don't block the nozzle too much, and sometimes I'd mix it in a way that I didn't get that consistency that I was after. It's a bit too thick, and I'm like, oh, it's not coming out here. So you kind of have to encourage it with putting a bit of thinner either on the end of the brush where it may have clogged, or you're just going to give it a bit more of a blast. But as you can see, we've sped this up, and the process is just very, very simple. Just reapply and let it dry. I'm trying to get a good coverage over it. I'm getting the rail as well, which is fine, and to be honest, if I left the rail, I think it'd still look nice, but I want to come back to that later, make it look a bit more rusty. But yeah, using the airbrush, I've used it for a couple other little projects, and I struggled, if I'm honest, with the blocking, not blockaging, struggling with blockages, let's say. And yeah, just working my way around. It's actually good. You get a bit of a achy finger as you're trying to hold a certain position and push down and pull back, push forwards, let go, and you're working your way through. But we got it done. And using an airbrush kind of gave me advantage over using an aerosol can because of the fumes, and this is acrylic base, so much more beneficial to my respiratory system. And yeah, so that was really, really good. So really, really pleased to do that. And the nice thing is, once I'd done a layer, I come back, I do a bit more. I did find once I lifted my screws out that I did get some chipping, so I have to go back afterwards and just touch in with the obviously this paint. But here we're going to mix up our mix for the track. I didn't have any of the rusty rail colour or anything like that, but I do have some burnt sienna. So I'm using the burnt sienna, and I'm going to mix it with a bit of the sleeper grime, so we don't have such the aggressive, the kind of orangeness of that burnt sienna. And because we're using the sleeper grime, we end up having a colour that blends reasonably well to the sleeper grime. And arguably they would have been in various weathers and got weathered and have similar looks across them because they kind of had that hard time. What I want to do with this is add some water, and we're going to try and apply it like a wash once I've mixed up the main bits. It's quite thick and it's going to go on like oil paint almost, so keep adding water until I feel like I've got a nice, let's say, not like an ink type wash, but just a very thin paint to go on, so it washes on, let's call it, and it just ends up not clogging up. And even there it's a bit thick, and I do introduce more and more water as I go, and I feel more and more confident with my result. I'm aiming at the bits that I can see, so I'm only doing one side of the rail. Maybe I'll regret this later on, but maybe later on I can always come and add some in. But we work our way across, and sometimes I get a bit kind of bored of painting that bit, so I'll start painting the little chairs as well that the rails are sitting on. And I don't think anyone's going to notice if I do or don't, but it's something that I can enjoy doing when I'm doing it. Obviously here I'm going over the fish plates and just enjoying myself. Actually, it's just take your time with all these types of things. If you don't want to do it because you can't be bothered with it, fine. But if you do want to do it and you're worried you're going to hit the sleepers, just only put so much paint on the brush and just go in carefully. And if you do ruin it, you can always come back later on with some sleeper grime, go from there. The beauty of if you put, let's say, some in the wrong place, and because we've watered it down, I can always come in with basically just a wet brush, and I can cover that area and smudge out that burnt sienna that's creating that rustiness on it, and that means that we can start again from there. So very, very enjoyable. But I find all these kind of things therapeutic. You have busy days at work and life's kind of starting to get busy again, so when you go up to the model railway and you start kind of painting a fair few meters worth of track, you can just chill out, listen to some nice tunes and go from there. Now we're going to get on to the ballasting. I've let that dry, it's all good, I'm happy with what I've done. And you've probably all seen many ballasting videos, but I'm going to show you a bit more and there's going to be more and more on the layout. as we work our way around. It has to be done. Well, we don't have to do it. There's other people that have done different techniques. I always like what I see with budget model railways. He likes to put ballast mat underneath, and it still looks really, really smart, but I kind of enjoy this process. My brother showed me this technique using a big brush, and we come in and we kind of dob it down and go from there. And yeah, we just kind of tap it around. And to be honest, I started out a bit gingerly because I didn't feel that, I hadn't done it for a while. I was had to remind myself of how we're doing this again. And actually, I could be a lot more aggressive than this to begin with and smudge it around. But you just work your way around, you take your time, and you can always add more. And you can also probably take it away a little bit if you really, really want to. The thing you can't do is obviously once you've glued it on, just adjust it a little bit. But if you really wanted to, you could pick out the bits of stone or ballast that's there. Anyway, as you put it down the centre of it, as you're brushing it, a bit goes each side, these equally. And you can add that back on as well if you really, really want to. And that's something that's also a calming thing. And it's all dry at the moment. If you hated it all and you didn't care and I don't want to do this anymore, go get the Hoover out with, I guess, a little sock over it, and you could suck up most of it and start again if you wanted to. Obviously, doing this, I've seen other people mix different ballast colours in and all these different bits and bobs. Looking at it, it's very bright and you've got weathered track, but the ballast looks brand new, but maybe they reballasted. They've got some lovely new ballast on there. Or the stones just wash off really, really nicely. But what I would like to do is come back with an airbrush at some point when I've got confidence, 'cause at the moment, this is all new to me in regards to weathering and making things look, let's say, as they would on a model railway. I've had the fun of a year of learning little bits and trying things. But I want to just bed myself in, and maybe I'll come in with an airbrush and just do some light weathering so you don't really notice it, but it just knocks off the edge of what looks like new ballast on it. But really, when you go to a steam heritage railway, you can have a look at the track, and that's been there a while, and try and look at pictures and see how it looked, in the past. But normally they're black and white. It's a bit hard, but you can kind of get an idea anyway. So what I do is I speed this up because it takes some time. You're going to be falling asleep if you watch me do this in real time. But anyway, as I was doing this, it was kind of pat, 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 pat. It was really peaceful. Quite a sleepy process as you're doing it. But it's nice. You get an achy arm, I'd say, as you're leaning over the whole time. If you've got a layout in a room and you can lean over a bit easier than I can in the loft, it's alright. But here, I've got my little dropper. I've got my water mixed with isopropanol alcohol, and then I have some PVA glue mixed with some water, 50-50 there. So what I do is I get my little squirty bottle and I squirt it on. So this breaks the surface tension, which allows the glue to soak in. It just gives it a little path for the PVA to stop it sticking on top. Once we've basically done all this, we're going to have to really let this dry because there's a lot of moisture on here. Being in the loft, it's been getting warm lately, and so it dries very, very fast. But putting the PVA glue on, just really make sure you cover all the area, and it's okay if you go back and put some on the same area again. There's a chance you'll make the stones go somewhere. Just be careful with it. But it's worth taking your time and making sure that you've covered everything. Some bits I was freaking out thinking, I haven't done that bit, But develop a little bit of a method and work your way through. I've got my squirty bottle, I then put glue on. Squirty bottle, put glue on. Just make sure I've got enough of kind of both on there so it really sticks down and looks really, really good. And like I said, give it lots of time to dry. I've kind of left it a good day and a half, and it was pretty firm by that point in my warm loft. Okay, so we've got the ballast on the track. The track's been weathered. I've used my paintbrush to then do the work on the rail, making it look all rusty. So that was, really enjoyable because it kind of looks neat, looks like the real kind of stuff. Looking at the ballast, I guess I could weather that a bit more, make that look more weathered, blend it in a bit more, but I'll leave it with that for now. I can always come back later and do it, but if I go in a bit early when I'm not kind of really sure what to do, I can't really change it, cut back to the original colour very easy. So that's that. One thing that I then moved on to do after I'd done the ballasting and waiting for that to dry, because it takes a little while. Luckily, it's been some slightly warmer weather lately. It was able to go rock hard a bit quicker than I thought it would, which is brilliant. And I worked on my bridges, and with the bridge, I painted it before, and I tried to put a wash on it. And the problem that I have is with the wooden laser cut kits, where the brick is quite deep. When you try and put a wash in there, you can never really see it. If you paint it even in a bold way, the paint just kind of soaks into it, even though I've played with varnishing and stuff like that. And I was never quite happy with the results that I'd achieved when you saw that bridge being done a number of episodes ago. After watching, it was Luke App's Affordable Painting Service, I think is the name of the channel, but Geek Gaming Scenics is the modern name for the channel. And I saw him building up an MDF kit, and he had these big stones, and in between it he used tiling grout in beige to then go in between it. So he went on with a brush and a makeup brush and dusted it in and everything, and then a wet cloth with hardly, a damp cloth, not wet, ran across, and that set it in those areas, which was really, really cool. So I thought, let's try it. So I went over to B&Q at the time, and I got this big old bag. I'm never going to use all this, but I thought I've got it for forever, I guess, and I can give it to like friends and family. Have you got some of that tiling grout? Yes, I have. Put it in little pots. So it will go a long way, I believe. So doing this myself, really, really pleased. One thing I found though was when it had dried after wiping it, obviously everything's gone very beigey. It looks like the mortar has gone over the bricks quite a lot, which is what you see on the real ones. So I kind of, with that wet cloth, I used one of these sponges. I went back over and I created some more. I wasn't over the same bit again doing it. I kind of just picked little areas and smudged around and stuff like that to look like the real mortar that you see on the sides of brick buildings. And I was honestly really pleased with it. And once that was done, because what I kept finding is I'd get that kind of whitish residue over all of it, was I varnished a little area just to see. And when the varnish dried, it didn't have that white area kind of dominating it. So varnishing the whole area made a really big difference. And I'm honestly really pleased. And if you follow me on my Instagram channel, O'Neil, you'll see those kind of bits of progress that I did. It was kind of about a week ago now, and honestly really enjoyable. If you do want to follow the channel, the Instagram channel, go have a look. I kind of feature what I'm getting up to, so you get a sneak peek to what I'm actually doing on my next episode, because I feature it on there, as well as running little locos round and having some fun with it, really. So the next step of the railway was to kind of get some grass on the layout, so let's go have a look. Now clearing up the mess is essential before starting the next part, otherwise I get bits of grit everywhere when I'm trying to put any glue down to stick the static grass on. And yes, there's going to be some static grass work going on. That's always fun, isn't it? Making spiky stuff. It also kind of makes you feel like, it's complete now. I've finished my model railway, but there's still lots to do. So I'm putting my little embankments back up, my little hills, and I can mark around them, so then I can work out why I'm going to paint some brown paint and just figure out what's going on, really. Just using a Sharpie, just make a mark, and it gives me a rough line. I can go in further, but I want to know how far my static grass is going to go, because obviously if it goes too far, they're not really going to sit back down in the right kind of place. Obviously this hill isn't finished. It looks a bit strange at the moment, doesn't it? I'm also wondering to myself, how's this going to be looking when I've finished it? But I'll figure it out. We can work it out. But anyway, I'm happy. We get them back off, and then we can have the fun with the next stage, really. The bits that I want to do now is we're going to add in some, let's call it like some soily, slightly stony areas on the side of the ballast, which is kept clear so you can attend to whatever. But I'm going to paint this brown first, so then I've covered all the area. And yeah, that's it. This is some burnt umber. Very dark, and to be honest, I'm not going to see it much apart from the areas that I haven't managed to get much grass on or whatever. I know that I could, leave little areas of the grass, so then I don't have it everywhere, so it looks a bit more, let's say, like real life. But we'll get there. So as we're working our way around, it's covered all the area. And then I'm going to get some PVA glue. And this is wood glue by Gorilla Glue. And what I do is like a little paintbrush, and I'm just going to put it exactly where I want it to. So I kind of, just manipulate it all the way around. And it's kind of a fun little process. I'm not in a hurry. I take my time. Add a little bit of water to the brush so it helps kind of spread it out a bit easier. And this is just going to be where that darker kind of, let's say, wood chip, dark stony soiliness that kind of sits there before the grass grows on it. And eventually, once I've finished all of this, I'm going to add some, let's say, dead grass closer to the edge of where the track will be, because it's all a bit drier. I learned that from the Marklin Sweden videos. He's quite an interesting guy and uses some brilliant stuff. So now I add this on and kind of pat it on and work my way around all these areas on the side of the track. Just fancy doing this, and even once I've done this, I'll hoover off the excess and we get that out the way. And so I just work my way around with this, and don't be afraid, it'll all hoover off nicely. It's only going to stick where the glue is, and you can have some fun and you feel like you're, I don't know, recreating something that was real. And if you're not sure, you can always go to a heritage line or even see a real railway line and have a little look at kind of how does it look. I'm kind of modelling, I've never been quite sure, a heritage line or just whatever I want it to be really. I like diesels. I've not really got into the modern stuff, but you never know, I might get something. So I'm just modelling a model railway that's in my head, and we go from there. Yeah, that's right. So working our way around, it's simple. I'll speed up here so you don't fall asleep too much, but we work along the edge. I've kind of sped up myself also the way that I was doing it to get it done, because I'm really looking forward to doing the static grass. And this didn't take too long to try. I left it kind of a good 40 minutes kind of thing. I know it probably didn't even need that long. And yeah, go from there. Yeah, if I did this again, maybe I'd pick a different brown that kind of blended in a bit more with the ballast, I don't know, or something that looked more soily, I'm not sure, but I think this looks fine. This is the WWS Scenic Glue. This stuff's lasted me for ages so far, though I haven't done vast amounts or anything, but once you put some on, it really spreads around nicely. It's like a rubberized kind of glue. It's like when it dries, when you try to clean the brush, you're always left with one of these little rubbery bits, but you can manipulate them out and you can reuse the brush quite happily. So I always like to use an old brush when I'm doing these bits, but one that's got tips that I know where everything's going. And so I work my way around. Obviously it's all lots of fun, but trying not to go over too much of the soil. As you can see, I attacked it a bit there, but again, we speed it all up and come through, because we haven't got that much time for a video. I can't have it going on for like 2 hours as I do everything in real time. But once that was done, I get to have the real good fun of putting on some 2mm static grass. And I think I go straight for like the summer stuff for the 2mm, because you don't see much of it. It all gets hidden a bit, but it's all good having it there. I tried to clip it onto the side, but I end up taking it off, and I just kind of keep it near the area that I'm doing to try and encourage that kind of spikiness that you get. And it always works out nicely. 2mm kind of one that you can't really fail on, I find. It's the longer ones sometimes, they can get a bit floppy and you don't get them how you want. Or maybe I just need a new battery in this because it's been in there forever. And I work my way over. And I'm going to be covering bits of track and all sorts, so you're going to have to again run a hoover over the top of it with a sock afterwards, so you can just get rid of that, because when you put on the layering spray, it will kind of stick it to areas that you don't want. If obviously you're not very good with that, you could obviously protect it if you really wanted to. You could put a bit of card in the way or whatever, but I found that, you know, when you're kind of giving it a shake, you can see it's going over the ballast in places there, can't you? So obviously refill it, will drop out. I mean, obviously in it will run out, so you need to top up from time to time. And I do all my areas in one go, so I've got my 2mm that I put on here, as well as I'll put it on the other side there. And that's the only area that I'm going for. This is the layering spray that goes on now, which is kind of fun. It's a bit smelly, That's something that I'd actually probably advise having maybe wearing a mask for this one, because it probably kicks out some fumes, but it gets a bit kind of stinky in the old loft when this is going, but fine. And the next step I like to put on is my 6mm, because I kind of like how that always works out, because I put my 4mm on top of my 6mm, so then the bits of the 6 poke through opposed to the 6 dominating everything, is what I've been finding. But maybe it's just how I found at the time. But onto this, on the 6 goes, and I get that spikiness, which is always very, very wonderful. And you work your way along. Obviously you can see that I've hoovered the ballast in between doing this. And we just work our way around. The 6mm, I just used a mix of various different ones, some dead grass, and just bits that I had, just to create something that wasn't all one look. I wish I did that a little bit with the 2mm, but you know, we always learn. But we work our way around. It takes a little bit of time, but we get there. We spray the area, then we apply it. It's very easy to use. And before I used it for the first ever time, I was a bit daunted by it. But we kind of spray the stuff back on, and we kind of add our 4mm, which I use again, a mix of different bits, and that makes it have that kind of nice bushy, nice wild grass look that from a distance looks alright. Now you can see that my mountain doesn't look so good, or my hill, and it stands out. But that's going to be blended in properly later on. I want to make that solidly part of it. But for now, what I want to do is blend it in with the static grass and make all the colours match, because there are slight differences there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my second layering spray and just put that in various places, to then obviously put some static grass on, and then we can use that to kind of just make it look more like they're naturally formed together. Not that it looks perfectly naturally formed, but fine, it is what it is. And so then I get my static grass, I give it a little shaky shake, and we put that on just more and more of the 4mm stuff, and we're just going to give it a chance really to blend in. And then I can use some scenics of the clump foliage and everything to make it look good anyway. So that will hide that for now, that little line, but I wouldn't worry about it. It will blend in eventually, and you won't even know what I did. Well, if you watch the videos, you'll know what I did. But I'm quite happy because I can still lift this out and do things if I need to. Obviously, I'm persevering in areas that I'd missed. But honestly, really, really enjoyable, all of this. Putting the other side in, and we do the same. After doing that, the clump foliages I used some Javis ones. I used some of the Geek Gaming Scenics ones, as well as I think some Woodland Scenics ones. I got various different ones of all the different colours and patterns and stuff like that, or not patterns, but you know what I mean, leaf types, and just spent ages collecting them over the past year. So it's always nice when you've got a variety to use. But as you can see here, we've got the 4mm doing the job. Part does the blending in. I wasn't completely happy with how it went on, but all this is going to eventually have some trees and things on to help blend in that countryside. But I need to do the middle bit between the two, having an entrance to the fiddle yard, or an exit from the fiddle yard, but it will be a tunnel entrance, and we'll go from there. So after this, I had the fun task of adding all this clump foliage, and you know, it's kind of nice. You see little bushes growing everywhere, hiding my join. Obviously, you know it's there, I know it's there, but I forget about it after some time, and it will do the job. I'll eventually hold these in permanently, but I want to be able to put the trees in, so these will probably actually all come up, pop them in a little box, and then put all my trees in, put some bushes up there with it, and finally have that finished look that I was after. So yeah, I'm kind of really pleased with it. Some of my favourite clump foliage was the Geek Gaming Scenic stuff, because it looked like it had more than one colour on them. It was like there was some scatter on top of the clump foliage, so honestly it looked really, really smart, so I was happy with it. But as you can see, as you start building up, it starts looking like these bushes that have built up on the sides, and to be honest, you could have them running up the edge, just having it look good there. And on this bit, I can then hide my join. Again, you know it's there, and it's not the most natural hill, like I said, but we'll make it look better over time. I can always cut into it or make a whole new one if I have to. But we don't have to stress about that too much, because it's meant to be fun, right? So yeah, really, really pleased with it. what I would like to see is like some of those different colours that make it look like we've got flowers growing on things and stuff like that. So I need to pick some of them up for my local model shop when I next go, because that would look really smart, having some what looks like flowers growing either on bushes or in the grass. So it's getting there. One thing that I need to do is get some trees on there, make it look a bit smarter, and just blending bits in, and it will naturally form itself. You can see that I've got one embankment when I've slotted it in underneath where you've got the main grass area, then it drops down. Yeah, you can see a line. That's fine, because I'm eventually going to glue this in place once I'm happy with any wiring that I need to get to from underneath. Once that's there, I'm going to glue it in place. I'll then do a little bit of work on the edge and we'll blend that edge in so you won't see anything. It's going to be really good. I'm kind of excited about that because it will honestly be fun. So that's that. Running trains around through it, it just looks good. I enjoy it so much. I had a couple of little bits of running issues where you have to pick little bits of ballast off because you realise you've got a bit on the inside of the rail, and the wheel flanges don't enjoy that. So right, let's fix that. So it takes time. I made sure I hoovered everything off nicely, got the track rubber out, and I gave the track a good clean because I didn't realise how much paint was staying on even though I've rubbed it. And so I had to work it and run the engines round. They'd stop a few times. I'm like, okay, give it a clean. Right, there was a bit there, and you end up missing a piece like that. You're like, how did I miss that? Clean that off and then it's good. So that was honestly really, really enjoyable, like getting that done and then running locos round. And as you've seen on some of the clips and some clips that you're going to see, the engines are running around very happily and I'm having a really good time with it. One big thing is I want to say thank you for all the comments that I get. I get a lot of people talking to me about getting back into the hobby, and they've watched one of my videos and it's kind of stemmed them into thinking, oh, I'll do a bit of that. And I'm sure you've watched many other videos as well, but it's always nice to have that comment to say that. The other thing is, if I haven't replied even after a number of days, it's not that I haven't wanted to, but I normally get around to going to my comments every few days and replying, and it's always really, really nice to read each one and give a decent answer. With work, I get very busy, so you don't always have time to just indulge on the really enjoyable part of my hobby time, which is the model railway and doing the YouTube channel. It's been a really, really good journey, and supporting me, my patrons and my channel members, I must say thank you to all of you. It's been a pleasure being able to talk personally with you about what you're getting up to, and just having that support from yourselves. Like, if you think what I've been up to has been good, so that's been honestly a wonderful thing for me to have that support with all those people. Anyway, I'm going to say thank you and goodbye. You take care, look after yourselves, don't overdo it. The weather's turning to a nicer state in the UK at the moment, so enjoy your time, and speak to you soon. Bye.